Coffee in hand. Hopefully, you have yours. Swig of coffee for all the working stiffs out there, the 9 to 5ers, the people in the trenches. Yeah, that's right. The people that make it happen so that others can get rich. Yes, and don't forget all of my fellow working stiffs, my time clock punchers. If it wasn't for you, those rich people wouldn't be rich. Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and start the show off here. And we got some comments here to read and everything. So let's roll through it. Before we do, actually, I definitely wanted to address this. It was some sad news of the passing of a rock music icon, Ozzy Osbourne. As a musician myself, Black Sabbath and what Ozzy did and pioneered basically metal music or rock and roll, heavy rock music. Just he paved the road, man. Nobody else sounded like him. The music, the riffs that they wrote, So as you actually see in the description section, if I remember to put it in there, gonna do a quote from the song, which I really like. And about people think that I am insane because I am always, frowning all the time. Um, that is, so relevant. Some people need to take heed to that and recognize that it's like. But anyway, what a great icon that he was, and we lost, a really, I think, an important fixture in the music industry there. And I've always liked that, and kind of reason why I've always gravitated towards rock music and that kind of thing was because you got a group of people that are actually playing instruments that are actually wrote something on either be it the guitar, the drums, vocaling, and actually wrote something so that they're all in sync and they're synchronized with each other. They're within the certain time signatures that they're in. The vocalist is hitting the notes where they need to be. So basically, you have all these people working together and just creating something. And most of the time, it's all that was one thing. It's like you always go see these rock concerts, and man, these artists they go all in. I mean, they go up on that stage, and I mean they're 100%, and they're full bore. I'm talking bands like that I love and enjoy, like Black Sabbath and even Ozzy's solo stuff. I actually always liked the album that he did on his own called Down to Earth. I thought that was such a great album. Kind of it felt to me. I don't know if it is as popular or whatnot, but I definitely was like, yeah, that's a really good album. Down to Earth is a good album. I know it was like not much later in his career, but it's still it holds a lot of substance there. I really like that. So anyway, yeah, it's a bummer. When I heard the news, that was like, wow, I mean, but I give the guy credit, man. He didn't fade away. He burned that candle, man. He went out with a bang. It's like I read a comment somewhere that it was just like it was so brutal. It was so rock. It was like it's like he kind of said, "Hey, I'm not doing too good. I'm probably not going to make it. Let's do a last concert." So to Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness. All right, but anyhow, all right, here we go. Let's go ahead and read some comments here. We have the first one up in no particular order. Again, if your comment wasn't read, we've been having, I don't know, I guess we've been odd stuff been happening where some comments aren't showing up or something, like people have commented, but their comments not showing up. Don't know what to tell you. I don't know. So we got to just kind of go through it. This one here is Slim Fire. Morning, JW, and have a great weekend, Slim. Thank you, Slim. We appreciate you being here and commenting all the time. This one here is from Christopher. It's nice to spend time with you on Saturday morning. I have a 1991 A1 with a loose ejector. I need to get it fixed, as I have heard that it can break. Just as you were talking about, I don't want to have that part stuck in the hole. Yeah, have a great week. Now, what we were talking about, if you guys didn't catch, we did a couple episodes about talking about ejectors breaking off in 1911s. inside the frame. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I've had it happen, just to kind of reiterate it, just so that there's nothing about like, oh, well, you should have bought one from the 70s or something. I've had one on a 1970s Colt break off into the frame and don't know how to get it out. I've had it happen there. I had one off of a 1990s series Colt that was it was a 9mm one, so it was an extended ejector, and the nose broke off, the tip, the extension, it broke off. Luckily, I was able to remove it that way. Those if you're kind of looking to replace them, I replaced mine personally with a Wilson Combat bulletproof part called the extended ejector. For mine it was a 9mm, but I mean I think it does the 45 no problem or something like that. That's weird because I got the package, it said 45, and I was like, this isn't the right one. But the listing said it would do the 9mm 38 Super. So it does have a slight nose on it, not as long as the stock Colt ones that I've seen. So I went ahead and installed it, and it worked just fine. So I'll roll with that for now. But it is made out of the machined out of bar stock or whatever. So hopefully it should have more of a longer life. That one, my particular one, did not have the groove in the front to accommodate the cross pin. So if you do have one with the cross pin and it slips your mind and you install it and you're trying to reinstall the cross pin and you're hitting the wall there, mine did not have the groove to accommodate it. So you know what? I just left it out altogether and just left it as it is. So I didn't install the cross pin on mine. To each their own. That's just what I did. I didn't want to mess with it. I didn't want to start. I could have filed and made a groove, but I didn't want to mess with that. So, all right. Anyway, here we go. So next up, Sean Lee. Good morning, y'all. Thanks for sharing some more good info to know. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you, Sean. We appreciate that, and we appreciate everybody coming around and chatting it up here. Okay. Levergun says, nice. And Warren Ness, we haven't heard from Warren for a while here. Good to see you back around. Hi, Bat Jack. How have you been? We've been good. We've been trucking along here at the show every Saturday morning. We're glad to have you a part of it back here. The star was Untouchables, starring Kevin Costner in All-Star cast. Yeah, I guess I didn't know that. Is this referring to the star 9mm pistol, assuming? Excuse me. There's a lot of really cool scenes in that. I think my favorite is when they do that weird thing out in the middle of that farmhouse or something that they're at, and they get ambushed. So, they're trying to interrogate, get information, and they're with the Mounties or something. And was it Connery's character grabs the guy from outside, and it's a dead guy, and he says, "Here, you come here. I need to know some stuff." And he's like, "What? You can't speak with this thing in your mouth?" And obviously the rest is history. The guy says, "Oh, you can't be doing that kind of stuff." And then, so we got the Cobra. You forgot to mention the Cobra. Yeah, I did forget to mention the Cobra. Cobra, he does carry a 9mm conversion, what appears to be like a gold cup, because it's got all the characteristics of the gold cup. There is a couple scenes where they show it that I've actually seen when you look it up and try to figure out which one he has. You see the large letter on the side where it says Colt MK4. And what I mean by large letter, it's when they pretty much eliminated the lines of text, and they just went like it almost like looked like they got lazy and they just went COLT MK4, and they just stamped it out and they said let it go with that. I don't know. So I've always kind of disliked that roll mark. I think some people don't like the billboard roll mark. I prefer that over just that big oversized text that are just, it's like, oh, wow, you just like, really guys just didn't, just kind of gave up a little bit, huh? But anyway, but yeah, it says conversion unit. So I'm thinking that they must have like special ordered that and got it custom done. Knowing a Stallone film, that wouldn't surprise me at all. He's always into custom stuff, getting something, built, handcrafted, and all that kind of jazz. So, All right. Chuck Norris and Force of Vengeance and Eye for an Eye had a nickel Colt as well. Have a great weekend. That's cool stuff. I didn't know that. I haven't seen those movies in a long, long time. Um, I'm not. I do like Chuck Norris. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't seen his movies as much as I've seen other stuff. I guess I just never really like truly like hardcore got into it. But I have seen them. I like them. I always thought the one that was the most outrageous was the one where he's got the two mini Uzis on a like a harness type deal. It's really crazy. Kind of reminds me of like that Bruce Willis movie they did later. That's a version of a same story that's been done over and over again. Um, Last Man Standing. I think that what's that one called Invasion USA or something? Where I mean, it's just like completely bonkers nuts. All right, and this one here is from Bohemian Hunting Club. A lot of great channels gone. Screws keep getting tightened down on here. Yeah, we're talking about that. We were talking about TAB, or I know him as Trees of Blowing channel, last week ago or so. He was which he posted that video. Now he's got another video that out, which I was glad to see that he kind of is going to still stick around, which I think is cool. And I'd rather see that than people just go away. Because it sucks. We've lost too many really good channels out there that just kind of disappear. I always said, like, my Hollow Point, man. I mean, he said his goodbye and that was it. His channel was done. His channel was really cool. One thing I really liked about his stuff that my Hollow Point did was he used to put these like weird little clips in the beginning of like his video, and it would be like either like some like a bird feeder or something going on like that. I always thought that was just kind of neat. They just insert some random clip like in the beginning. It's like, oh, where'd that come from? So anyway, I kind of actually wanted to talk a little bit about grips because grips are kind of really, it's one of those things. If you're a gripaholic, you're always into like changing them out. For every firearm, you might have like a couple pairs at least, right? Some people they have several pairs. The alarm's going off. But some people have like several pairs. Like I'm not gonna say any names, but anyway. But grips do change the whole appearance of it. Now we're talking in this case kind of like vintage grips, like the one on this Colt Trooper here. These are the original grips that are on this thing. They're kind of these nice, like I guess target grips you could say. They're big, they're bold. They got the checkering. I'm gonna tell you that it's so funny is like I heard people say, "Oh, some of those copied grips from Thailand or something, they're not quite as good. They're not quite as the checkering. You can tell where they did it with a file or whatever. Any kind of." I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a big fan of the stuff that comes out of Thailand and everything because they're really good copies of this. This is original, Colt grips. And I'm telling you, like I can see where the checkering went up here, and they just kind of gave up, and they just went and they ran some random faint hairline lines up into their everything. The darn things don't even fit correctly on the frame back here. So, but they're the original grips. I'm not gonna waste any more money into trying to replace these or get whatever. These are the grips that it came with. They're the original grips. I leave it at that. I don't care. For me at this point, where my collection stuff goes, it's here for now. I mean, I have it for now. It's a really cool revolver. I don't shoot it a whole lot, so that kind of threatens its existence in the safe. So, all right. But or other stuff like these are Python grips by Deer Hollow. These are far more. I mean, far as I would take his grips over the original Python grips any day, and put them on mine. And that's what's neat is because you guys know, like we've talked about, I've got my own 2020 Python, and I run his grips on them because they're like the OG grips on the better. That's my opinion on them. So, and he has a really awesome write up on the original grips. So what I'm getting at here is, if referring to kind of the copies or original grips, sometimes the originals will run you some stupid amount of money, and I have absolutely no problem with paying for quality, but when it gets ridiculous, I'm not gonna do it. I've seen some vintage Colton grips go for hundreds of dollars when I think it's just like totally not worth it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to pay $500 for a set of original Colt Python grips. At least in my wallet, in my collection, I got no use for that. I'm not going to do that. Something. I'll just I'll compromise with something else, and I'll be happy about it. When you're talking about over, to me, and I mean, I've heard somebody say one time, it's like, well, nothing's overpriced. Well, maybe in your bank account. But to me, I'm just not gonna. I'm not willing to pay. I'm not gonna just throw out over a bunch of money into something that is just like 100 times overpriced. I just won't do it. I'm just going to be smart about it and say, you know what? There's some other way to achieve this without expending that kind of cash flow. So anyhow, that again, that's just my opinion on it. That's the way. So I've always looked for alternatives to the original grips, and Thailand, the stuff that comes out of Thailand happens to be a really good alternative. And if they were made, in America, more power to them. But they are coming out of Thailand. That's where they're making them, and a lot of times you can find some people selling them. They imported a bunch of them, and then they're selling them. They're getting shipped out from somewhere in the States here. So there's that option. But the main reason I like them is because they're exact copies of what was made of yesteryear. They're done pretty good. Some of them they added a little bit of a twist on it, which makes it pretty cool. And if it looks pretty darn good, I'm for that. I'll buy that. But it's nice to be able to pick up a K-frame set of target grips, or a Smith, or an end frame, or something like that for a fraction of the cost of the originals. And a lot of the originals, when you're buying them, they are so worn out. They are so, like, a lot of the times the edges are worn, and they're not the same anymore. They really aren't. So I'm kind of a little bit like, stay away from that a little bit. So, I don't want to pay for that, and just, like Deer Hollow Grip said, he goes, you got this really nice, beautiful revolver, and you got a set of these really used grips on it. So there's kind of that. I like to, feel like they want to wear together, get the character and age together as you go ahead and use them. So I also wanted to kind of briefly kind of touch on another video that we did earlier this week, if you caught it, which is my favorites for the range, stuff that I love to take to the range. And and it was funny because some people didn't understand like some of the concepts of it. Anytime we go to the range, now I don't like going to the range and seeing, when I'm shooting, and seeing basically dollar bills flying out of the ejection port. In other words, is like what I'm saying. I don't like seeing that. I like to shoot for as cheaply as possible and have fun. And I think that's the key for anybody doing anything, regardless of what it is. If you're going to have fun, you want to have the most fun for as little money, right? It's like going to Vegas, and at the end of your 4-day trip, which is a long time in Vegas, at the end of your 4-day trip, you hit that slot machine and you just won back everything that the whole trip cost you, or you just won back everything you put in them machines. Time to go. Don't put more money back in. That's winning. That's winning. And most of us, people, like, that's winning, man. I mean, that, I'm not a lucky person. That to me is winning. And my mom has done that, where she hit the machine back and she's like, wow, I just won back everything we just gambled. And I'm like, let's go. I'm like, don't put any more in the machine. You don't understand. Low middle class people like us, that's winning. So barely middle class. So Anyway, but yeah, that's why another reason why I like the 9 millimeter cartridge. It's cheaper to shoot. It's fairly easy on recoil. Not that 45 is like so dramatic, like oh my god, it's gonna rip your wrist off. Come on. Um, but it is, it's cheaper to shoot nine. It's easier to load nine. I load. I got a 550 press, that I use mostly now. And I actually just ordered a shell plate thing to load nine on it now, just because, it is an easier cartridge to load. It's fun. You can, take a whole bunch of it with you to the range. So, and 9 millimeter in 1911 is just so sweet to shoot. It's so smooth. It really is. I don't know. Maybe it's just the older you get, the more like you're into like really finely done things, and you just admire how smooth something operates. Maybe when you're just younger and you're like 23 and you just got into the whole thing and you just got your gun for the very first time and you just want, I don't know. Hey, we were all there. But anyhow, but yeah, that was kind of, it was, I just wanted to share a lot of the stuff with you, and things, that I kind of more my take on a lot of that stuff now is like I'm more interested in the stuff that you can go right to the store, you buy it, it's there, it doesn't, it's not going to cost you $5,000. You can't afford that kind of stuff, and I actually just recently had a fella that kind of ran into him some weeks ago, and he was telling me about this older Colt 1911 that he had, and it was like a World War One, like 1914 something rather, and really nice pistol. He ended up bringing it in to show me, and I looked at it, and it's nice. It's an original war gun and everything, and he said, "Are you interested in buying it?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I said I really like it. It's really cool. They're really historical pieces, but I'm no longer in the market for high end collectibles, or just not high end, but high price collectibles and stuff like that. I'm not, it's not where I'm at anymore. I mean, a long time ago, I probably would have, had the itch and tried to figure out how am I going to grab it from him. But these days, I really do a pass on so much stuff. In fact, I sell more of my stuff than I do buying anything. Um, so but I told him, I said, yeah, I really appreciate you showing it to me. I really appreciate you taking the time to get it out of your safe and bring it to me and have me look at it. And I felt like really like almost honored, like that somebody would actually, like wow, like that it meant that much to him to want to show it to me. Granted, he wanted to sell it to me, but I mean, I felt like that was really cool to see it. I thought it was really awesome to be able to hold it in my hands, check it out, and be like, wow, that's cool. I mean, it's a World War One, pistol that that's pretty cool. So, but I'm not in that in that market, and so. But anyway, but yeah, kind of wanted to kind of roll through some of these comments. We had one here from Led, and he says, "Well, he loves the phrase unobtainium." Yeah, I don't know. I've always kind of said that. It just because, I'm a paycheck to paycheck person. Paychecks never are what we need them to be, and I'm speaking for all of us working class people. And they never are what they need to be. And so I'm not interested in like to me it's like oh yeah, well, you want this this really like cool pistol. Like I'm not going to name names because I'm not going to sit there. I don't throw rocks at companies and manufacturers. I try not to. I mean, every now and then you almost got to because it was so ridiculous. But I'm not. It's not what I do. I try to avoid it at all costs. But I saw this one pistol from this really like known high end company that manufactures 1911s. It was really cool. It was like a throwback kind of a pistol to like an old Colt commercial. I saw it and I was like, wow, that's actually really cool. And I actually saw one locally down here. I saw one in a shop and I actually looked at it and I was like, wow, that's and I got a little itchy, and this was some, like a year or so ago. And I got a little itchy about it. And I was like, wow, that's really cool until I saw the price tag. It was like $5,000. And I was like, whoa, what the? And I just was like, I can't do that. No, that to me is made out of unobtainium. Uh, to some, they can. I mean, if you can roll out that and buy that gun with ease and no problem at all, hey, more power to you. That ain't for me. So anyway, um, yeah, and I see Slim Fire is he was on that. Good to see you on that comment too, over there. And Mike over there, Mike from Montana. It was good to see him. He says, I enjoyed the video. The 9mm Commander with a lightweight frame sounds like a great configuration. It is. I learned that from watching Ken Hackathorn and Vickers. I learned that from them. They praised it so much. I said, I got to check this out for myself. So. And they were right. It really is the ultimate package. It's not a heavy. It lightens it up, and it lightens it in a way where shooting it is also not a big deal. So, and of course we had DB over there, and we had Teresa blowing, and everybody. So I appreciate that. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. We appreciate you hanging out with us every Saturday morning and your comments as always. So thank you. I appreciate that, everybody. And we'll see you next Saturday.